component, RIAS, IA, and CSA. I'll go through that. And then ICT10 as also is focusing on research, and I will present it in the next session. So what we want to do is those blue blobs, which are about research. So in research, we will have a part of research done in ICT9 and a part of research which is done in ICT10. In ICT10, it's focusing on the 4 technology I mentioned before, and it's focusing on the application areas I also mentioned before. So that is kind of define the areas and the technology. In ICT9, we have a more open part on research, and we want it to be complementary to ICT10. It means that the technology is open to any kind of technology, but the application areas are the one complementing the one which are prioritized, okay? So this means that if you want to apply for an application area, which is one of the 4 I mentioned, you go for ICT10. Otherwise, for the other application area, you go for ICT9. So this is very important to understand that if you want to go in this 4 application area, don't submit it to ICT9 because it excludes explicitly in the call those application areas. And then we have those large-scale pilots for, we have innovation action with a focus on the application, one of the 4 application area, and the focus this year will be on inspection and maintenance. And finally, we have a competition, and the competition has to focus on the 4 application area I mentioned before. This is the upcoming calls for you to have the information. So we will have, in 2020, we will have also ICT9 on application area, and the goal is to complement what we have done today. So there will be one on farming and one on manufacturing, and then the one on healthcare will be on the smart hospital of the future. So with the 2 calls, we will have covered the 4 application area in terms of large-scale pilots. And then, in addition, we will still have a part on core technology and on research. Okay, just to give you the idea of the future, how we are going to have future calls. And how also to explain that, okay, in the 4 application areas, the plan was to have digital innovation hubs and large-scale pilots, complemented with research projects. Okay, now let's go more in the details of the ICT9 call. As I said, there are 3 components in this call. So one of them is research and innovation. So the goal is to have innovative approach to hard research problem and in new application, excluding the one covered by the point C, so the 4 priorities. The goal is to have rather focused project, 3 to 5 million per project, and we have a total budget of 20 million for that area. I'll go into detail after. Then, second point under ICT9 is the large-scale pilot in robotics, and the goal is really to pilot, to demonstrate the use of robotics in an environment which is realistic or close to real, and the priority area this year in terms of application is infrastructure inspection and maintenance. For each of the action, we expect a budget of about 7 to 9 million. So this is an indicative budget per proposal. And we have a total budget for the call on 28 million euro. And the third action we are funding, type of action we are funding in this call is a competition. As I said, we expect 1 competition, 2 million, and in healthcare, in the 4, covering the 4 application area we have prioritized. In terms of type of expected stakeholder in the proposal, academia and industry, either users or developers of technologies, and also we expect to have end users in the proposal, especially for B and C. where you need to have the end user in your consortium in order to launch a large-scale pilot, which makes sense in their environment. And the same for the competition. We want the competition not to be on the theory only. We want to show them in realistic scenarios. So you need the user to define the priorities and how to run them, what is useful for them to demonstrate. So the specific challenge in ICT9 is to address technical and non-technical challenges via the different tools we have, reduce the barrier to adoption, and you see that especially when we want to pilot, to go towards more application. The competition is also very useful for that, to show the capability of systems driven by user needs. So this is especially true in the pilots and the competition as well. And even in the first one in A, where we highlight the importance of demonstrating the progress in the context, or to show that it can contribute to these applications. So it's good to have the user taking it on board. Not only on the technical aspect, but also you have to address the ethical, legal, and societal and economic aspect, especially in the pilot, in the large-scale pilot. Raise awareness and take-up, this goes for all the actions, and privacy and security issues are inherent, especially when we go more towards the deployment. So we expect that to be seen, especially in the pilots. So subtopic A, so this was the chapeau, so covering the 3 sub-actions. Now in the subtopic A, where we are funding research and innovation projects, so there we expect that the bulk of the work would be focusing on research. So we want to see innovative approach to really boosting promising application. And we expect to have progress in addressing hard research problems linked to some applications which have interesting and promising new areas of robotics, new areas excluding, as I put very high there, the 4 priority areas. We want to show that with this technical progress, we have improved solution, which then can really improve the take-up as well in a lot of applications, especially in application which can demonstrate benefit in either the social aspect or economic aspect. So that's very important to develop a technology that can show the benefit, the socio-economic benefit. It should be driven by application needs, and it can start from low TRL. So as I said, it's research and innovation, so focus on research, but they have to validate the result in an environment which is sufficiently realistic so that you can demonstrate, okay, this progress in the technology will actually be useful and in this or this kind of application, and to convince the people that, okay, I'm contributing and this technology is going to contribute to your application. So as I said, it's an open topic to any kind of approaches, so not as in ICT10 where the technical approach are mentioned, and it covers all the application topic except the 4 application areas I mentioned before. So the important is also to connect what you're doing in your proposal to all the other projects. So we are funding digital innovation hubs in robotics, so it would be important to understand whether you can collaborate with them, whether you can interact, whether you can exchange with them. So this is important that you understand the landscape and position with respect to the landscape and see how to interact and collaborate. We also have a project on the platform and other relevant activities. So up to you to analyze what's going on and contribute to them. In terms of impact, we want to strengthen the excellence of robotics science and technology. This is research. And we also want to boost the use of robotics in this promising application area. Therefore, the importance of demonstrating the progress in a realistic context. And of course, we hope to open to new markets for robotics. And indeed, in lowering the barrier to deployment of a robotics-based solution, which is important. Therefore, it's so important to show progress in a very tangible way. It should not be just in a lab. You have also to to show how in a realistic environment it brings progress. So that was for the subtopic A, research and innovation. Subtopic B, these are the large-scale pilots, and through these pilots, so just here, very important, the application area is only infrastructure and inspection and maintenance of infrastructure, sorry. So don't submit anything which is not covering that. It will not fit the call. The other one will be called the year after. So this year we focus on this one. The goal to have these pilots is really to use to demonstrate the use of robotics in a real environment and to show how it scales. So a pilot is something which is lasting long and which show how it works in operational condition or close to operational condition. And the goal is really to showcase how the robotics can contribute to this field and to also convince the user community in that field that the robotics has a role to play and contribute. And this is also on the technical aspect, so the showcasing, but also demonstrate the socio-economic impact. So in terms of revenue, so it's a good solution. Social aspect as well. For instance, there are many of those applications which are dangerous for people. So if you can demonstrate that your technology is helping, or your pilot demonstrate that, okay, it can save people from a very dangerous situation, that's very important too. So within the development of pilot, we expect also the development of platforms which can then be used and shared to all the users of this kind of technology in this environment. And therefore, one of the tasks the proposal should work on is to find the infrastructure, the architecture which is useful and relevant and suitable for them, and also define interfaces, how to use the platform. And then it should, once you have defined this architecture, which should be useful and adopted by all the relevant actors, the importance is to test and validate this architecture and also bring the different actors. So it's not only a technology, it's also linking to the overall ecosystem of the user of this technology. So therefore, you need to connect to the users to develop the platform. And yes, once the platform will have evolved and mature, then you can also think about how this should come into, contribute to standards. So which kind of standard is up to you, up to the community to see which kind of standard they want to have, but it will be important so that there will be a broad use of this technology through standard. Okay, the proposal should also use existing infrastructure if there are some at local, regional, national level, and if there are also privately funded infrastructure, let's use it. And this is also where you can link to the digital innovation hubs related to that topic and see whether you can collaborate or contribute or build on what they have already. The importance is that it's not a project that after the project is finished. We want this to serve as a long-lasting initiative, which will, therefore you have to think about sustainability. What's going to happen with your platform at the end? The pilot should not end at the end of the project. Think about how it can be reused and continued after the funding. And finally, it would be important to convince the user that you have clear metrics that you define together with the user. So what are the performance they're expecting, and to demonstrate that you're progressing towards their expectation. And finally, it's very important to engage the industry. As I said, users, provider of technology, integrators, and so on, including the SMEs as well. And also rights. So it should be in providing the pilot as well. It's important then in the project that you disseminate best practice, how it worked in your conditions, so that others can also replicate. And also, you have to give access to the platform to others. It's not a platform that has to be kept within the consortium. It has to be shared as well. And so you also have to coordinate with the other activity I put in the beginning, in particular digital innovation hubs in these application areas. And finally, dealing with technical and not technical issues. I said social economic impact, new business model, legal and regulatory, since you're coming closer to application in an area which will imply safety issue and so on. So you have to understand what are the constraints in terms of application needs. And finally, ethical and cybersecurity issues and connection to big data and IoT. That's more the technical part. So these are important things. What impact we expect from this project? So demonstrate the potential for robotics in this application area and show how it can impact at scale. And also reduce the risk for this application domain. So if you demonstrate via pilot that, okay, it's a solution that can solve their problem, it's a solid solution, it meets their requirements, then you really help the deployment. So you reduce their risk and you help the deployment. That's the next point as well. Explain to the user what the technology can do for them, which benefit they will have. So it's not only technology, but also their business model also. And also demonstrate that the platform can be used, shared, and for a longer period of time, and also promote its use, which means also connecting to the rest of the community. So it's not just a platform you define for your own. You have to make sure upfront that you're sufficiently representative so that the platform will be used by others. And then, develop an ecosystem to stimulate deployment, so using with the users and so on. And the standards is a contribution we expect from the project as well. Maybe not directly within the project, but in a longer time frame, you have to think and plan for which kind of standard you'd like to contribute to and how. Final subtopic, competition in healthcare inspection and maintenance of infrastructure, agri-food and agile production, so the 4 application area. So again, we want to reduce the risk in showing the performance of system in realistic environments. So this is very important. It's more a dissemination activity, and this competition helps a lot for that, to really show in a tangible manner how the robotics can solve problems. So again, the condition should not be lab condition, but something which is realistic enough so that the user can say, yes, I want that. I see how it would work in my environment. And it's also very useful to have those competitions to demonstrate progress, because then you can, if you have a clear way to have performance indicator and show progress over the years, that's very important concept of the outcome of the competition. There should be challenge-led competition, focusing on the 4 application areas we mentioned. And we want also to link to the public, so to give a realistic picture of what the technology can do, because so far they see sci-fi movie. What we want to do here is to really show them in realistic environment, okay, what are the concrete outcome of this competition. In terms of content of the proposal, you have to address all the activity links to the organization of a competition and engage with the media, the public, and so on. So that's quite complex in terms of organization. And to get some inspiration, you can look at the currently funded proposal project we have in competition to see a bit how it works, which kind of event they organize, and so on. But one thing which is new here, and we want to push more in this competition, is really to get sponsors and from the industry. So get sufficient interest, generate interest from the industry so that they also co-invest in competition. And so that's very important, to get them into competition so that they have really genuine interest in this competition. And we expect as outcome to see a greater public exposure and also greater engagement of the commercial organization, as I just said. Summary. So 3 topics here: research and innovation action via pilots and competition. Deadline 28th of March. Sorry, I put 29 in the first one, it's 28. And we will have a brokerage event on the 18th of December. The room is already full, but I'm trying to find solutions. So you can still try to register. The context here is we have already, as I said, a number of funded projects. You will have this information later. And now I will give the floor to Christophe Leroux to give us a little bit of information about, one of the projects, which is the Digital Innovation Hub in inspection and maintenance, that has been retained, and the contract has been signed with in the previous call. So this would be then an important information for you, so that you can put a face behind this digital innovation network, which is relevant for this call. And I forgot to mention, but the colleagues from Idealist, they will have a session tomorrow morning. If you plan to submit a proposal, they can help you drafting a proposal, or at least guide you in telling you which area or which topic to focus on. And they left some papers there, so when you go out, you can check which services you can benefit from this Idealist services. So, Christophe, if you could give a bit of information about this Digital Innovation Hub.
Thank you, Cécile. Yes, Christophe Rowe from CEA in France, and so I'm in charge of this new project called RIMA, Robotics for Inspection and Maintenance, which will be aiming at building a network of digital innovation hub on robotics for inspection and maintenance. So the digital innovation hubs, you might know or about this concept, all of you. I don't want to be too long, and if you need some information, you can contact me about what to have more detailed information. Basically, the digital innovation hubs are made to facilitate uptake and connections between the different stakeholders in one of the priority areas that Cécile has been talking about. The domains that we're concerned in RIMA is inspection and maintenance of infrastructures in different domains, actually. That can be energy, production and distribution, water supply or distribution, and oil and gas, infrastructures, hubs, airports, ports, infrastructures, or whatever, these nuclear applications also. So we have it represents quite large roads and tunnels and highways also. So this is not exhaustive, and we are in this network of digital innovation hub. We'll try to consolidate all over Europe through 13 digital innovation hubs, the way to make this connection between all the stakeholders, including the end users, highlighting their needs, and the offer that we can have in the research and research organizations and universities. So the connection that we can offer from the DIH perspective, would be to display the development you'll be making, federating, and I think it's very well illustrated in the impact of the first call, the ICT9A, that should anyway contribute to make robotics in Europe the leading. To make Europe the leader in robotics in the world, and create this dynamic to spread out the research that is made in research labs, and also take into account the real needs of end users. So. And if you're interested, I can send around some short presentation, some slides about RIMA later on.
Yeah, it would be good to put it on the website of this, if possible. Otherwise, in the brokerage event, we will add also a presentation. So thank you, Christophe. That was a nice introduction, so that you know someone dealing with this network of digital innovation hubs. And if you have a question, and so for instance, how your technology could be used in digital innovation hubs, or you can interact with those. That's an important contact to have. Now, I would suggest we have a quick question and answer, and then we will give the floor to the three presentations. So, are there questions regarding the initial presentation or to the digital innovation hubs? Okay, if there is none, oh, you have one.
somewhere of the application areas, a framework document where we can understand what these areas are specifically?
Right. There is some definition in the multi-annual framework and the strategic research agenda from the PPP Spark, from Robotics, but at the time when they were drafted, the 4 priority areas were not really well defined. But you have to understand them in a broad sense. So for instance, the agile production was not as a topic there, but they had manufacturing. So it's more like manufacturing and the corresponding what goes with the logistics going to manufacturing, so that you can think of agile production. And it includes as well easy reconfigurable manufacturing system, plants, and so on. So that's the kind of thing. Healthcare was well defined there. Agri-food was well defined there. So that these are the current thing. And I think inspection and maintenance was also well defined because there was a topic group dealing specifically. And you are the topic group coordinator. So Anibal Olero is the topic group coordinator. So if you have specific question on this, you can also ask him. Thanks. Oh, another question there.
Just another question tied to manufacturing. I mean, you focused not on agile manufacturing, but agile manufacturing is just a specific approach to manufacturing. What about the other fields of manufacturing, innovative manufacturing, manufacturing of unusual objects, and so on? They are allowed to be considered the new application areas or not?
For me, dealing with novel objects that were not planned initially, it means that they have to be agile to adapt, right? So it looks to me like agile manufacturing.
No, I'm thinking about the innovative way of doing manufacturing or entering into the manufacturing process some objects like soft objects, let's say tissues or other things.
Right.
So I think this is not agile manufacturing. Is it true or not?
Right, that's a good question. I still believe it's part of kind of agile, but because of the materials you're handling, so it's not like a standard manufacturing where you don't need to adapt. Here you will need to adapt to the type of object.
Advanced collaborative robots.
As
this
well.
is not agile manufacturing. This is interactivity between robots and user, and can be also used for other application areas in the similar ways of manufacturing. You can use the same technologies in an innovative way.
Yes, but I would consider that as agile manufacturing, because you need to collaborate, you need to adapt to the system. Therefore, there is the adaptation model, which is there. So I would put that in the. But there is some definition in the
manufacturing is precise definition. I mean, means the way you can substitute the production, and so it's not. It's not the general manufacturing area. So yeah, this is a little bit ambiguous in the code.
Right. We are going to add that as a Q&A, and then to clarify what we mean by that. But the generic idea was to have a broad understanding of agile manufacturing, so not to be too prescriptive in this definition. But we will. It's a good point. We will add this question to the Q&A so that everybody can have the same information. Thanks. You and the evaluators, I mean, as well.
Good afternoon. Could you clarify the situation regarding the agri-food application area? Because you say that the digital innovation hubs are not ready.
Yes.
But at the same time, we cannot apply for the...
Right. The situation is the following. There was a problem in the submission, and the proposal was not eligible. There was a redress, and then it was decided by the panel that it will be eventually evaluated. So initially it was rejected, and now we are going to evaluate it. It's going to happen next week, and then the result will not be known, will not be publicly known by the time of the call. So the way to approach that is to plan for an activity to cooperate with the Digital Innovation Hub in Agri in case it gets funding. And then we will see how to proceed. If the proposal is selected, then we will see at the grant agreement preparation how to address that in case it is not selected. This is the only way we can work, because you will not know the result before the call deadline. That's unfortunate, but this is the only thing we can do. What you can also do is to liaise with RODIN, which is the Coordination and Support Action, helping the Digital Innovation Hub. And they will also liaise, because there is another Digital Innovation Hub network in Agri, not focusing on robotics, but on digital technology. And that might be a B plan, to link this technology development to the Digital Innovation Hub. The role of Digital Innovation Hub is really to bring the technology to the user, to the local ecosystem, the local users. So in case the one on Agri for robotics does not pass, then it might be a solution after. But that is speculation. So we have to first make an assumption that it gets selected. If it does not, then we will have to find a solution. It's exceptional situation.
Thank you.
Wow. I have to say that I would like to give the floor to the three proposals. So I will take another 2 quick questions if you have. And there were 2 in the back, so yeah.
So I already got the mic. So the question is about those application areas. So if they are already outlined in the MAR, are they still promising or not? And if we could also add to Q&A grouping of those areas, because there were many areas, and now we've got those 4
Yes.
leading.
Mm-hmm.
If we could do the mapping, for example, there were many
Yes.
topic groups.
Yes.
But now they, for example, I don't know, 3 or 4 of them go to maintenance inspection, and as you say, manufacturing. So if we could also do the mapping from MAR to the end, what is a leftover?
Yeah. Okay, that would help also to frame the definition a bit better, and that's something I'll try to address. And maybe last question. You can also come to the next session and ask the questions, which is on ICT10, but we can take questions for ICT9 as well. Any other? Oh, yes, one. Yeah.
Thank you. I was wondering, how can a proposal related to the digital innovation hubs, which are in the 4 priority areas, without addressing the 4 priority areas?
Yeah. The thing is, here it's digital innovation hubs in general. So you know that in Europe there are many more digital innovation hubs. And a given digital innovation hub, they might focus on various application areas. So the one you will find in all the funded one, all the networks, they address partially those application area because they are part of the network, but they might as well address other applications. So you might have one focusing, I don't know, on aerial application, which works on inspection and maintenance, but might as well work, I don't know, on traffic management, on other things. So this is a bit the idea. And there is a catalog of digital innovation hubs. So if you search for catalog digital innovation hub, you will find the one which are currently considered as digital innovation hub mature enough, and then you have a source of information there as well. Good. So now, are the speakers who prepared a presentation here? I saw one of you here. Are the others there as well? Okay, but come already, and you will make. So which one was yours? Oh, the first one. So the first presentation, please.
It's not a problem.
No, we only have 5 minutes. But the 2 other speakers, presenters who propose a presentation are not in. So then we can take question after. So you have 5 minutes.
Perfect. So hello everyone. My name is Razvan. I'm here to present an idea we have for the ICT9 call, specifically the pilot part, the B part that was presented. So I'm here with my colleague Fabrice. We come from INSA Lyon, which is the largest technical university in France, and what we are trying to do is so we are addressing, as it was mentioned, large infrastructure monitoring. So anything that, bridges, dams, pipes, tunnels, and stuff like that. And today, when we monitor this kind of infrastructure, is usually a team of people that is sent on the field to do some measurements, maybe collect some data from some sensors that are already installed. But it's very it involves a lot of human intervention, and also these infrastructures that we are monitoring. They are usually in areas that are not covered by regular, let's say, cellular networks, 4G and the future 5G networks. So it's very complicated for the staff that's on field to communicate, to exchange, for example, photos that they take of a broken part of the infrastructure, to send it to a command center and stuff like that. So our idea is to send these people not alone on the field, but together with some robots, like these that would be either terrestrial robots or aerial robots, depending on the infrastructure that we want to monitor, of course. And the idea is that these robots would bring with them a cellular infrastructure, so a 4G or a 5G, if we project to the future, mobile infrastructure. So the users will be able to use their regular phones and exchange data and, let's say, facilitate the infrastructure monitoring part. So we make some drawings like that with the example of a bridge. So we have our two people who want to exchange some information. They are too far away from each other, so each of them would come accompanied by a drone in this case, but it can be a terrestrial robot. It's not a problem. Maybe a third robot would be needed in order to create like a connected network between the two users. And of course, in the end, our users would be happy because now they can exchange photos and they can do a lot of things. They are totally connected. Of course, we need to address a number of scientific and technical challenges for this. So things that are specifically related to robotics. So if we talk about drones, the mobile network equipment that we propose to carry, it's quite heavy, let's say, for today's capacity, for drone capacity today, so 5-6 kilograms. We have a fleet of robots that needs to be controlled, maybe have some stationary flight. There is some image processing that might be involved if we talk about drones, because we need to localize the users on the ground and try to follow them in case they move, building a map of the environment. There are some mobile networks issues. We need to build the backhaul network between the drones. A mobile network has a radio access part and the core network part, so these are not really meant to work in this kind of environment, so they need to be adapted. We need some computing. We have some computing challenges. Everything needs to be virtualized. We need to bring the computation close to the users, so maybe on the drones or something close to the drones. And of course, we need end users for specific applications. So we already have some partners that are interested, that joined the project. And we are basically looking for anyone who would be interested in all these areas, who would have some skills or some interest in this part, either to join the project or even to coordinate the project. So anyone who's interested, you have our email addresses, and we'll be around if you have questions and if you want to talk with us. So thank you.
Thank you. Now, if you want to ask one or two questions more, we can address them. Otherwise, we're already over time, but we are not paid by the time, so we're happy to help. Any other question? No, that is good. Thank you. So let's meet in 15 minutes for the next session. Thank you.